regarding the Mets, it's interesting. People said I was ridiculous. They even called me and Dom crazy. It wasn't possible. Wasn't going to happen. He had a no trade clause. He'd have to agree to it. I don't see it happening, along with so many other things people said from the August 12th reel that I posted on Instagram, the August 12th YouTube short that I posted. But Brandon Nimmo, as most people know now, is officially traded to the Texas Rangers for Marcus Semien. There was a reel, again, as I already said, that I posted on Instagram and YouTube back on August 12th. You can see it, and it just expressed how he needs to be gone, and the Mets really need to look at trading him in the winter, and that's exactly what they did Sunday night. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the FTB podcast. I'm your host, Chris Nagulik, alongside no one, where I will be discussing the week that was. The Knicks are not serious contenders, and I got a strong take for you on why that is. While the Jets and Giants continue tankathon and termination. The Yankees remain quiet, but the Mets are getting active, and they turn the stove up to 350 with a trade that FTB knew was coming. Where do the Mets go from here? I will be assessing that riveting topic in a bit. But first, as I already said in the intro, it's going to be me and me only today. Dom is sick. He won't be joining us, but the show must go on. He's had one hell of a morning. Did not feel well from, I guess, once he woke up. He texted me at about 9:40, 9:45 this morning. Said, I just don't think I can do the show today. He threw up a couple of times, and he just doesn't feel great. So hopefully he feels better. Shout out to Dom. Hopefully maybe he can send me a recording later on. If not, then no big deal. But as I said already, the show must go on. My weekend was pretty solid. Had a Friendsgiving on Saturday. That was pretty wild. Friday didn't do much, and then Sunday watched some football. Pretty normal Sunday. Thanksgiving is coming up in a couple of days, so a lot of games to watch there. Black Friday game, and then, of course, the usual Sunday games, and then the Monday night game, which is the Giants. But we'll get to football a little bit down the road, and, of course, the bets and the predictions a little bit down the road. But again, my weekend was solid. Nothing really to say much else on. Nothing too crazy to discuss. But we're going to start with the MLB. Usually Dom goes first with the Yankees, but even if he was here, there's not really much to say about the Yankees. Still quiet with them, but they could start making moves as we approach the month of December. That's really it. I mean, they threw out, some sort of news where, hey, Devin Williams could possibly sign with the Mets. Obviously he's a free agent. Maybe the Yankees bring him back. I don't know. Who knows? So that's really the Yankees right now. But regarding the Mets, it's interesting. People said I was ridiculous. They even called me and Dom crazy. It wasn't possible. Wasn't going to happen. He had a no trade clause. He'd have to agree to it. I don't see it happening. Along with so many other things people said from the August 12th reel that I posted on Instagram, the August 12th YouTube short that I posted. But Brandon Nimmo, as most people know now, is officially traded to the Texas Rangers for Marcus Semien. There was a reel, again, as I already said, that I posted on Instagram and YouTube back on August 12th. You can see it. And it just expressed how he needs to be gone, and the Mets really need to look at trading him in the winter. Obviously, August 12th meant that the trade deadline, the July 31st trade deadline, came and went. So really all the Mets could do was look to trade him in the winter. And that's exactly what they did Sunday night. Now, according to Brandon Nimmo, in his introductory press conference for the Texas Rangers, he was told about this trade all the way back on Thursday. And he obviously had conversations with his family. He would have to, of course, agree to the trade. As I already said, he had a no trade clause, so he'd have to agree to it, for the trade to go through. But knowing Brandon Nimmo, he obviously, okay, yeah, he wants what's best for himself, but he's not the type of guy to obviously become guess you could say, a hindrance to the Mets or do anything that would possibly, hurt the Mets going forward. So it's not really a surprise that he decided to, agree to this trade proposal and have it go through and move forward. But, he took a few days, the day after he got informed that the Mets were looking to trade him. He had, his daughter's birthday party the next day, and he went up until Sunday night to finally tell, David Stearns and the New York Mets that, hey, I agree to it. That's fine. Send me to Texas. Mets got Marcus Semien, in return. So some things I'm going to say here that I have written down. So Brandon Nimmo is going to be 33 in June. Marcus Semien just turned 35 this past September. I believe the exact date is September 17th. Marcus Semien turned 35. Listen, I understand his age is his age, but that's the same with Brandon Nimmo. And Marcus Semien, he brings a serious defensive prowess now to the Mets. He is a two-time All-Star. He has 2 Gold Gloves. Actually, I believe Marcus Semien made the All-Star team 3 times, actually. 2021, 23, and I believe 24. But Marcus Semien just won a Gold Glove this past season. So Marcus Semien is bringing great defense. That is something that David Stearns expressed in his end of the season press conference that needed to be fixed, needed to be solved for this upcoming offseason. And he's done the first step in doing that by helping the second base defensive hole. And of course, Brandon Nimmo, he was clogging up the left side of the outfield. So yes, the contract maybe is not the most forgiving when it comes to Marcus Semien for the next 2-3 years, but Brandon Nimmo's contract, there was still 5 years left. Brandon Nimmo signed an 8-year, $162 million contract after the 2022 season, and it was for $20.5 million each. Yes, I understand Marcus Semien is making 26, but that's only for 3 more years, whereas Brandon Nimmo is making 20.5 for the next 5 years. So the Mets are trying to slash down the payroll with having another team take on his contract, and the Mets conquered that by trading Brandon Nimmo to Texas and having Marcus Semien coming to New York. As I've already said, Marcus Semien is a Gold Glove second baseman. He's a plus defender at second. The Mets can now get a left fielder with good defense and robust power, maybe like Cody Bellinger or Kyle Tucker, or have Carson Bench be ready for opening day and take that spot, or maybe be the center fielder for the Mets. Who knows? I know the Mets just agreed with Tyrone Taylor for $3.8 million on his arbitration deal, so he'll be back next season for 1 more year. But with Brandon Nimmo gone now and having that left field vacant, the Mets can now do whatever they want to do going forward. And that is something that they really couldn't do, if he was still here for the next however long, as much as 5 years that was left on his contract. Brandon Nimmo may have gotten his record home run and RBI statistical seasons last season, but let's be real, folks. He's not a cleanup hitter. He's not a cleanup hitter. He's not a clutch hitter, nor is he a solid defender. His days were numbered. He needed to be dealt for the right price and the right overall talent, but not the best overall talent. I know people are saying, well, Marcus Semien's offense is not what it was before, and it's definitely declining. Now he's 35 years old. He'll be 35 for 95% of the season, until he turns 36 next September, 2026. But again, what are we talking about here? Stearns wants a well above average defensive player, which Nimmo, frankly, never really was. Maybe for a season or 2 at center field. That's what got him the 8-year, $162 million contract after the 2022 season, which, mind you, David Stearns did not give him. So David Stearns wasn't held to that contract because that contract was given to Nimmo by Billy Epler and his regime. So Brandon Nimmo was never the great defensive specimen that, frankly, Marcus Semien still is, clearly, because he just won the Gold Glove. at 35, 34, going on 35 years old. So as much as people love Brandon Nimmo, as much as people, wanted Brandon Nimmo to be a lifelong Met and they wanted him to stay here for the rest of his career and wanted his number up in the rafters, folks, I am sorry. This deal needed to happen. And I'm going to say it right now. Me and Dom knew it was coming. We knew the trade was going to happen. We even talked about it consistently off air. We said there is no way the Mets can improve their outfield defense or even figure out where they're going to place Brandon Nimmo in the lineup if they don't trade him. And I got news for the folks who want to keep on telling us that, oh, he's got a no trade clause, not going to happen. Folks, nobody gives a shit about the no trade clause. Anybody can be dealt. I know I wrote this to the people in the comments section as a response. I know I did, and I'm going to say it now live on the episode. It does not matter if you have a no trade clause in your contract. You can still be traded. Because at the end of the day, as I even said, I'm sure episodes ago, Brandon Nimmo is the kind of guy where he will be understanding if you tell him the truth, the honesty, and you give the best explanation possible to why you're looking to trade him and what is going to be given back and what the Mets are looking to do going forward. If you're upfront with people and you're honest with them, they'll understand. And very rarely in baseball, and frankly, most sports, that the player is going to say, I don't care. I'm not going anywhere. I'm denying it. Now, if it's a trade that's outrageous, where the player's like, I don't really exactly understand what your end goal is here with this trade. Maybe they will deny it. But Brandon Nimmo, folks, it wasn't happening. The Mets were upfront with them. And let's not forget, too, what was reported, what even Brandon Nimmo said in his introductory press conference with the Rangers, what David Stern said. This was more of the Texas Rangers demanding and wanting Brandon Nimmo. They wanted him. David Stearns even said this was something that was getting discussed at the GM meetings recently, and even last year. They were talking about how Brandon Nimmo would be a great fit. So this is not something that just came out of the blue, and David Stearns was like, wow, give me a minute to think about this. This is spontaneous. This is shocking. No, it was neither of those things. It was something that was in the cards for at least over a year, maybe 2 years. So, again, Brandon Nimmo, fantastic Met, one of the most likable, genuine, honest, awesome people, in this world, and one of the most respected players in the game. But what does everyone say when you work in the front office of a sports team? This is a business. And at the end of the day, he was going to be dealt however the Mets wanted to deal him. That was going to be the best fit and the best thing for the Mets organization. And that's what they felt that this was, with getting Marcus Semien back, playing second base. Now, what does that mean for Jeff McNeil? Well, I definitely have my opinion in a little bit down the segment here, but David Stearns talked about Jeff McNeil maybe getting some reps at first. I'm good on that. I'm good. I'd rather watch paint dry than watch Jeff McNeil play first base. Just like Luis Arias, Jeff McNeil does not bring power to first base. If you're not going to sign Pete Alonso, you need to bring somebody else in with some sort of power and above average defense, which Jeff McNeil doesn't have either of those. He's got average defensive play. He's a utility player, right? He can obviously play different positions. We've seen it since he's come up with the Mets, middle of the 2018 season. But Jeff McNeil at first? No. I'm good on that. You might as well ask me to play first. I'm not even gonna entertain that possibility. So that's with Brandon Nimmo. Now, what are the Mets getting with Marcus Semien? Okay. Marcus Semien is a leader in himself, but let's not forget something. The man has a ring. He won a World Series 2 seasons ago. He knows how to win it all. He has leadership pedigree, and he knows what winning it all looks like. And the Mets need veterans that have won it all. Now, I understand Juan Soto is here, and he has a ring as well. But as a lot of people commented to me on YouTube, he did it when he was only 19, 20 years old, and he wasn't really the face of the team yet. That's somewhat true, but the man had to play. He was there. He had a uniform on last time I checked. That's what I saw. So he's got a ring, so he still knows what it is and what it's like to win it all. Yeah, maybe he was very young, but man still got a ring, and you can't take it from him. And if you see his 2019 postseason highlights and statistics, they're pretty great. You know, they're pretty credible. So again, Marcus Semien has leadership pedigree. He's a leader in that locker room. You're trading away a fantastic leader in Brandon Nimmo, but you're bringing in another fantastic leader in Marcus Semien, and not just from my point of view, but from a lot of different people who also vouched for Semien and who also expressed how much of a leader he is in the locker room. But the Mets need veterans that have won it all, as many as they can get. And even Lindor has been to the World Series. He should have honestly won back in 2016 against the Cubs. Can't believe, then Indians, now Guardians, blew a 3-1 series lead. But Lindor has been to the World Series. He knows what it's like and how it feels to get that far. But again, Marcus Semien is a serious leader, and with the Mets having this young roster that they do have, I think Semien is the perfect guy to help lead them to where they want to go. And again, he's a fresh 35. He just turned 35 a couple of months ago, so he still can play. Again, he's a plus defender. He's got 2 Gold Gloves. He's made the All-Star team 3 times. I think he can still show some sort of offensive ability, and I think he will help the team for this upcoming season. Where will he bat in the lineup? Don't know. It is way too early to give that answer. The Mets have so much more work to do than just this move. So I'm not even going to give my opinion on where Marcus Semien is going to bat in the lineup. So that is the full-on trade for Brandon Nimmo and Marcus Semien. Again, I think it's a great start for David Stearns. It had to happen. I had a very, very good feeling that it was going to happen. Me and Dom together, collectively, we had a feeling Nimmo was going to be gone. Now he is. He'll be reunited with Jacob deGrom in Texas, and Marcus Semien will come and be the second baseman for the Mets. Brett Beatty, I'm sure, will be the third baseman. Mark Vientos, who knows? Maybe he'll be gone, but that actually transitions me to now 5 things to look out for going forward with this winter offseason. And this is very important to listen to, because I adamantly think that almost all of these, maybe one of them may not happen, but I think all of these will be a good possibility for this upcoming December, January, whichever month David Stearns tries to get all of this done. I think he should avoid trying to have to sign somebody in February like he did with Pete Alonso, signing him 2.5 weeks before spring training even started. So again, 5 things to look out for going forward. Number 1, Edwin Diaz needs to be back. He's got to be back. You cannot look to get another Edwin Diaz anywhere. You want to maybe try to bring Devin Williams. I think you try to bring him as a setup man. He cannot be your replacement closer. I watched him play for the Yankees last year. Dreadful. Dreadful. He is not a closer, not at this state in the game. After Pete Alonso, go figure, kind of ruined that for him, after the 2024 playoffs in the wildcard series. But Edwin Diaz needs to be back, as I do expect him to be re-signed. But I'm going to say it right now, I don't think Pete Alonso will be back. I think he's going to be somewhere else. Diaz is an imperative piece to the Mets bullpen, and he looked like the 2022 Edwin last season that we were dying to see again. And frankly, he's arguably more important than Pete Alonso at the moment. You need a closer. If you don't have a closer in your bullpen, I don't know how you're going to win close games. and the Mets had a lot of them last year, and they blew a lot of them because Edwin Diaz was not in the game for whatever reason. They tried to go to somebody else, have Edwin rest because he pitched a lot, because the Mets did have a lot of close games last season, and the Mets blew him. They blew a lot of games last year, a record amount, where if just one of those games, if they didn't blow, they would have made the playoffs. They would have qualified, for a best of 3 series against the Dodgers. Would they have pulled it out? Probably not, but they would have qualified for that. So again, I do think Edwin Diaz is going to be back, not Pete Alonso. Pete Alonso will try to have Boris get the money he believes he deserves, but I do not think Sturge will budge on a crazy contract proposal like 6 years, $210 million, as I said last week, and that I also put in the YouTube short and Instagram reel that I posted last week. Pete's defense is bad, and I agree with Keith Rad over at WFAN Mets Radio. He was on Baseball Night New York on SNY. With Brandon Nimmo gone, David Stearns is harping on better defensive play. Pete Alonso does not bring that. Not even close. You could say Kodai Senga should have been more unfit, but let's be real. Pete Alonso's throw to Kodai Senga the middle of June was essentially the snowball effect of the Mets just slowly losing their spot in the playoff race and just declining from mid-June all the way to the end of September, and then finding themselves out of the playoffs, getting fans and front office people to question, can we keep all these players together? And now look, Brandon Nimmo is gone. But Brandon Nimmo being gone, David Stearns is harping on better defensive play. And with that being said, I agree with Keith Rad. I don't think Pete Alonso is going to be here. So that's number one. With 1A, okay, so with that said, I believe the Mets should sign Nathaniel Lowe to a 1-year deal and wait for Ryan Clifford to be called up by the All-Star break. I looked at the free agency list. It ain't great. Josh Naylor is off the table, as we already talked about last week when I was just going on my absolute rant with Andy Martino and his stupid takes, okay, on Baseball Night New York, saying Josh Naylor's contract was not affecting Pete Alonso's market, which he is blatantly wrong, and I'll stand by that. He is blatantly wrong with that. His contract definitely affects Pete Alonso's market. Carlos Santana is 40. Ryan O'Hearn is not a defensive first baseman. Louis Arias does not have the power to fill Alonso's spot. Paul Goldschmidt is not the same player he once was, with much recent decline. I even asked Tom last night, before he told me this morning he wasn't coming on, I said, would the Yankees bring back Paul Goldschmidt? He's like, I don't think so, no. Because they see that his numbers are declining. Paul Goldschmidt's 38 years old. And I think the Mets still need low 30s, middle-aged quality first baseman that has range, that can defend. And I think out of this whole free agent list, I think Nathaniel Lowe is the best choice. He still hits for power. He had decent numbers. Maybe his batting average wasn't fantastic, but I could tell you he still has good power. His numbers with Boston and Washington, a 228 average, 18 homers, 84 RBIs. So he's got power. He had a bit of a down year last year, but his defense has vastly improved since 2021. And then, of course, Rhys Hoskins is just not a great clubhouse guy and is a Mets enemy. I wouldn't look to bring him in. And his WAR is much lower. I believe Nathaniel Lowe's WAR is a 2.6, so not that far off from even Josh Naylor's 3.1 and Pete Alonso's 3.4. But I think the best option is signing Nathaniel Lowe to a 1-year deal and waiting for Ryan Clifford to be ready to go maybe by June or July and get called up to play first base if they're not going to sign Pete Alonso. I know the first baseman, Murakami from Japan. I know people want him, but I'm not going to lie, from what I read, Murakami is not a great defensive first baseman. His defense is below average, and if the Mets are really going to harp on defensive play, especially at first, if they're going to lose Alonso, they got to bring somebody in who still has power, who can play defense. Now, that is also going to lead me to another topic down the road here, but number two, David Stern said Jeff McNeil could get some reps at first, but that would be a boneheaded decision. As I already said before, I wouldn't even entertain that possibility. I think Jeff McNeil will be the next to go, and it should be part of a trade package to get a pitcher like Tarek Skubal, Freddie Peralta, or Joe Ryan. I don't think Jeff McNeil should be here next year. He's got one more year on his deal, and it's for, I believe, only $12.5 million. And I think Jeff McNeil, as much as he is a good utility player, he is not an above average defender. And I also think he's a bit on the decline. He's going to be 34 within the first week or two in next season. And so, again, his numbers weren't great. He was injured. And so I honestly think he will be the next to get traded. 4 years, $50 million. Yeah, that comes out to 12.5 a year. So I think Jeff McNeil will be the next to go. And if he does, it'll be part of a trade package for one of those three pitchers, Tarek Skubal, Freddie Peralta, or Joe Ryan. Number 3, Brett Beatty will play third, and Mark Vientos will also get traded, also for a pitcher. I think he'll be in the same package with Jeff McNeil, because say if they want to go get any of those three, honestly, but maybe more of the Freddie Peralta, Tarek Skubal type, the other team, i.e. the Brewers with Peralta and the Tigers with Skubal, are going to want 2 MLB-ready players. And that's exactly what Jeff McNeil and Mark Vientos are. Now, one is a much worse defensive player than the other one is. I'm talking about Mark Vientos' defensive play compared to Jeff McNeil. But those are two guys who have already played at the MLB level. Mark Vientos had his great 2024 playoff run, but had a very much maligned and disappointing season last year. I think Brett Beatty will be the third baseman. And again, Mark Vientos will get traded also for a pitcher with the same package possibly as Jeff McNeil. Number 4, David Stearns may try for Paul Skeens if all else fails. And if he can land him, Nolan McLean may be on the table to get the trade done. This is the only situation, or I should say really scenario, where Nolan McLean is a possibility to get traded. It's only for Paul Skeens. Paul Skeens is worth any kind of trade. He's got team control. He is young, and he just won the NL Cy Young Award. So I think if they go for Paul Skeens, it is worth possibly giving up Nolan McLean, and I think it's something that David Stearns should definitely look into. If they can't get, Sandy Alcantara, Freddie Peralta, Joe Ryan, Tarek Skubal, they need some high-quality pitcher, and they want to go all for it, and they want to go in, he'll maybe look at Paul Skeens as a possibility. Number 5, and lastly, and I am adamant about this one, I think it's a good possibility, and David Stearns mentioned his name in his press conference that he just did on yesterday, after the Brandon Nimmo trade. Carson Bench will be the center fielder for the Mets on opening day, with the Mets signing Cody Bellinger as the left fielder. I think the Mets will sign Cody Bellinger for left field, and I think Carson Bench will be the center fielder. It is time to bring up the youth, and that is, of course, if Carson Bench is not in a trade package for a high-quality pitcher, essentially a frontline ace pitcher. Carson Bench will be the center fielder for the Mets, and the Mets will sign Cody Bellinger for left field. The Mets, people can say their payroll's high. Steve Cohen does not care. He wants to win. He wants to win even really before the CBA's even expired, which is after the 2025 season, and he's going to do whatever it takes to get it done. And I think Carson Bench should be and will be the center fielder for the Mets. And the Mets, I don't know about Kyle Tucker because of his injuries last year. He's got some sort of injury history. It was a bit of a down year for him last year. His numbers aren't bad, but they're not what really Kyle Tucker wants for a contract. So I think the Mets go and try to get Cody Bellinger, and Carson Bench is the center fielder. Tyrone Taylor does not cut the mustard. Yes, Tyrone Taylor's a good defender. He's a good defensive center fielder, but he can't hit. As we've said during last season, Tyrone Taylor is not a consistent hitter. And center field, you need to try to find a guy who's got the full package. The Mets have not had something like that since Carlos Beltran. They have not. They have not had something like that since Carlos Beltran. So they need to find somebody And I think it's in Carson Bench where he can hit and he can defend. And Carson Bench is an above average defender and he can definitely hit. So I think Carson Bench being the center fielder and the Mets getting Cody Bellinger, I think is a great choice. Juan Soto's got a great arm. Not the best defender in right field, but he's got a great arm. Cody Bellinger's got a fantastic arm and he's good at defense in left field. And I think Carson Bench is a good center fielder as well. And he's got a decent arm and he can hit, as we've seen from AAA highlights and all of his minor league highlights. So again, Carson Bench will be the center fielder for the Mets, and Cody Bellinger will sign with the Mets for left field. So those are my 5 things to look out for. And the last thing I'll say to wrap up the MLB segment, as David Stearns said, as David Stearns stated in his press conference on Monday, I think anything would be realistic right now. And it's the truth. With Brandon Nimmo being traded, where people thought, oh, he's got a no trade clause, that's not going to happen. No, folks, it's very possible. It is very possible that he could get traded, and he did. And I think anything's possible going forward. And anybody is on the trading block. Maybe the only person, if it's not Paul Skeens, the only person possibly not on the trading block is Nolan McLean. But as David Stearns stated in his press conference on Monday, I think anything would be realistic right now. And I 100% agree to that. So that's the MLB portion. Now going to the NFL. The Giants, I know, again, this would be Dom's part, but again, he's not with us. He is sick. Giants lose to the Lions 34-27. Jameis Winston, 18 for 36 passing, 366 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. QBR was an 83.4. Passer rating was a 93.1. Wan'Dale Robinson, 9 receptions on 14 targets, 156 yards, 1 touchdown. He should honestly be looked at as a solidified number 2 wide receiver, I believe, for next season once Neighbors returns. So I think, Robinson should be looked at as a re-signing piece for next year. So again, I think Wan'Dale Robinson would be a great extension, and there's no reason why the Giants don't do it. He'll be a free agent after this year, and I think they should really consider bringing him back. Isaiah Hodgins has been great since he returned. 2 receptions on 6 targets. That was 42 yards, 1 touchdown. He's continued to look solid. He's continued to look effective for the Giants. So again, that's another good weapon for Jackson Dart. And speaking of Jackson Dart, he should be back next week against the Patriots. He's got an extra day because they play on Monday Night Football. They thought maybe he could have cleared concussion protocol, but he did not. He did not play in this recent game. And, the Giants, again, they don't have the talent on the field, right? They obviously won't have Neighbors for the rest of the year. They won't have Cam Scatterbo for the rest of the year. Jackson Dart should be back, but the Giants, after the game against the Lions on Sunday, first thing Monday morning, they let Shane Bowen go, which is something Dom wanted adamantly for weeks, and that's exactly what they do. Outside linebackers coach Charlie Bullen is now the defensive coordinator for the Giants. And again, the Giants are 2-10. They're gonna have a high draft pick. We'll see how Jackson Dart plays. Hopefully, if he gets cleared before the Monday night game against the Pats in New England, mind you. Excuse me. So I don't know how Jackson Dart's gonna play after being out for a while, but the Giants could maybe take this game. It's going to be cold. It's going to be windy, possibly up in New England. I'll give my personal prediction that was really from my brother down the segment here. I don't know if the Giants can pull it out. Again, hopefully Jackson Dart clears and he plays, but it's going to be, I think, a fairly tough game for the Giants. Low scoring, possibly, but my brother's prediction doesn't have it too low, but not too high. It's kind of right in the middle. But that's really the Giants right now. In terms of the Jets, they lose to the Ravens 23-10. Tyrod Taylor should have been the QB, I believe, much, much sooner. He went 17 of 28 passing, 222 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. I don't really care so much about the interception. He just looks more competent. He looks like a true veteran, and he knows how to be a quarterback. And I just think he should have been a quarterback weeks ago, not relying on Justin Fields, who frankly looks like shit week after week. So Tyrod Taylor was solid. Brees Hall, 44 yards rushing on 16 carries, 4 receptions on 4 targets, 75 yards. His longest was 40. One massive fumble loss, though, however, that changed the game and killed all the momentum for the Jets. That was unfortunate. He was close to the goal line. He was trying to push for a touchdown. He even admitted maybe that wasn't the best decision, and he was obviously visibly upset with the fumble. Aaron Glenn, being the guy that he is, he tried to console Brees Hall after the fumble, but listen, call it a spade a spade. It did kill any momentum that the Jets had in this game. The bright spot once again was John Mechie III. 6 receptions on 7 targets, 65 yards, 1 touchdown. He continues to look like a effective weapon for the Jets, which is what they're going to need. Forget about this season, but going into next season and going forward. So again, 6 receptions on 7 targets, 65 yards, 1 TD. Bright spot was John Mechie III. And really, that was the only bright spot. In terms of everybody else, I feel like they're just trying to get through the season at this rate, especially their great offensive line, who I'm sure is so sick and tired of trying to protect any quarterback back there. And I'm sure they must have been happy that it wasn't Justin Fields this past Sunday. It was more of a veteran quarterback, but still, they're trying to do the best they can, and they are a robust, effective offensive line, and that's really the only good part of the Jets. With the bright spot being John Mechie III, their pickup wide receiver, from one of their trades. So now Aaron Glenn, he's trying to keep his team's head up, right? But the season is over. Okay, the Jets have clinched a 10th straight losing season. And honestly, I don't know how long people can watch the New York Jets just consistently shit the bed week after week, season after season. For them to have a 10 straight losing season is just absolute malpractice. It should frankly never happen. And I don't really understand how the Jets can really just go every year, especially the owner, go every year just seeing his own team lose and have losing seasons and just be okay with it. Like, don't you after a while have some sort of care? You give a shit at some point. Everyone tells me, oh, he's got a ton of money. He's not selling the team. Trust me, he doesn't care. I just don't know how you can live your life by watching your team that you essentially put together. You got to hire the GM. The GM's got to hire the coach. And the GM's got to hire the players. And then the coach has got to coach the players to try to win as many games as possible in a season. Woody Johnson is all right with continuously having a losing season? I just don't know how you do that. It blows my fucking mind. I mean, how do you have a 10th straight losing season? Okay, Darren Muji. He traded with the Eagles. They got John Mechie III. He traded with the Titans. He got Brownlee, right? Brownlee Jr. They traded with the Colts. They got A.D. Mitchell, who looked a little better this past game. He actually caught some passes. He opened his eyes. He actually figured it out, thank God. But still, a 10 straight losing season, and you're going to up season ticket prices? I know we talked about this a couple weeks ago already. I even maybe threw it in there and mentioned it a little bit last week. But to increase season ticket prices and then to have a 10 straight losing season, unacceptable. So again, the Jets, they just continue to lose. That's what they do best. And that's how it was. Again, they lose to the Baltimore Ravens 23-10. Tyrod Taylor tried his best, essentially gutted out as a veteran quarterback with the very limited weapons that he has. Don't forget, Garrett Wilson's still hurt. And Brees Hall, they're trying to utilize him as much as they can because really at this point, he's the best option for them on offense. So that's the Jets and the Giants. But now we're going to talk about the NBA. The Knicks on the week go 2-1. They beat the Mavericks 113-111. I'm going to be honest. I mean, I put it out there last week that they were going to lose. I mean, they almost did. I didn't even know if they were going to pull this one out. Thank God for Landry Shamet, who we're going to mention him for the next game, unfortunately. But 113-111, I didn't even really watch a lot of this game. I ended up watching the highlights the next day. I mean, this team really confuses people. They really start to get people concerned on what they're going to be this year. But the Knicks only beating the Mavs, a 4-11 team by 2 points, 113-111. That's just not high quality play. I know Jalen Brunson missed a couple of games. He was a bit rusty. He had to get his legs under him, and be in basketball shape, but he didn't look good. And I'm kind of surprised that the Knicks won this game. I'm not going into stats. Cat's stat line, who I'm going to mention again down the road, his stat line wasn't good. Again, shooting from three is not his strong suit so far this year. And beating a 4-11 team by 2, not good enough to me. You had the Mavs game on Wednesday night, then you had the Saturday game against the Magic. They lost 133-121. And this game is really where you kind of have to think that the Knicks are not really a serious contending team if you can't beat teams like the Orlando Magic in the East. You got to beat good teams. The next team I'm going to get to, the Brooklyn Nets, you can't play them for the whole 82-game season. So you're going to have to beat some good fucking teams in order for you to think that you're some sort of a threat in the East and you can be a contender. Well, they lost to the Magic 133-121 Saturday night. Landry Shamet, thank God it was reported it was a shoulder sprain. He didn't have a shoulder dislocation, but that didn't help them in the game. He injured himself early in this game, I believe the first quarter. But the Knicks just, they don't look like a legitimate threat right now in the East. They beat the Nets 113-100 last night on Monday, but I'm sorry. The Knicks they're not a legitimate threat. Right now, they do not look like a contending team. Right? They almost lost to the Mavericks. They got played by the Magic, and the Nets are the Nets. We need to see serious wins. That's why I'm not going to go through the stat lines. It's pointless. I'm not going to do it. Because right now, how the Knicks look, they're not a serious threat. They're not a contender, and they're not a team where I see them, going all the way. And I could confidently say to any Knicks fan or any non-Knicks fan, oh, yeah, they could potentially go all the way this year. They're that good. No, they're not. They're not. I got a haircut this morning. One of the other barbers is telling me he doesn't like the coach. Okay. Yeah. Maybe Mike Brown is not the best coach. Maybe his philosophy of, let's take 40-plus threes every game. Maybe it doesn't look great right now. But I'll tell you, the players still need to play. I'm not going to put all the blame on the coach. The players still need to play. Bottom line. They're the ones getting all of those millions of dollars. They have to show out. And I understand, I already expressed it for a couple of weeks now. If you want to be a three-point shooting team, you're running the risk of having losing streaks and winning streaks. There's going to be nights where you look absolutely terrible. You can't make a shot. You're not looking like a strong offensive team. But again, this is the card that you're dealt. Leon Rose let Thibodeau go, who I was completely fine with letting go. And you brought in Mike Brown. You tried to interview other coaches, but Mike Brown was somewhat of a last resort. I'm not going to flip-flop. I was fine with the hire. I thought, okay, veteran, has been to the finals 6 times. Of course, his 4 rings was when he was an assistant or an associate head coach, and he helped LeBron James get to the finals in 2007. Some can argue that LeBron James really brought him there, not the other way around. But the Knicks need to start beating good teams. Beating the 4-11 Mavs by 2 and beating the lowly Nets are not going to suffice for me to say, the Knicks are a legitimate threat in the East. It's just not going to. They need better defense as a whole, and they need to do more than just shoot threes. There needs to be more mid-range added to their offensive game plan. Beating the Nets is nice, but this is lower hanging fruit compared to the other competition in the East. You need to beat the Pistons. Ever since they beat the Cavs and the Celtics, we haven't really seen that type of play since then. And that was what? October 22nd and October 24th. They need to start beating teams that are ahead of them that are also threats in the East. Orlando Magic, Detroit Pistons. They're playing the Toronto Raptors on Sunday. Then they're playing the Celtics again on Tuesday. I'll give my predictions a little bit down the episode here. But, they play the Hornets on Wednesday, right? And then they play the Bucks on Friday. Both of those are cup games. Then they play the Raptors on Sunday. Then they play the Celtics on Tuesday. These are some good teams you're playing. Maybe the Hornets aren't the best, right? Hornets' record obviously isn't fantastic. They're 4-13. Their record hasn't been fantastic in God knows how long. But you got a cup game on Wednesday. You got a cup game on Friday. Supposedly, if they beat the Hornets and the Bucks, they can qualify to be in for the cup playoffs. So again, we'll see what happens. But I'm telling you right now, they need to play a lot better. So now that brings me to my take of the day. You can call it a hot take. You can call it a lukewarm take. I don't really care. The barber was trying to say this guy had one of his best nights of the whole season last year. Buddy, pal, friend, Mr. Barber. It's the Nets. It's not a serious team. It's not a contending team. They're not going anywhere this year. For Christ's sake, the Nets haven't gone anywhere since their inception of being the Brooklyn Nets. The New Jersey Nets, a little different. But the Brooklyn Nets, they haven't done much since coming over from New Jersey. But the take of the day, the Knicks will not win a championship with Karl-Anthony Towns. Not going to happen. You can tell me whatever you want. You could tell me, oh, well, it's too early. Folks, we're already a fifth of the way through the season. Go ahead, do the math. Do 16 divided by 82. You get 19.5. We are now, if you round it, we're now 20% in the season. After a while, you got to start showing me what you're made of. Cat shoots from the logo. He did it multiple times last night. He takes stupid three-point shots. Once again, driving to the hoop, not that effective. As I've already said, he needs to stop doing it because it's a crowded paint, and then he throws a wacky shot, and then he just starts screaming foul or what the hell, or come on, whatever, oh my God. He's got to stop with it. He needs to start utilizing his skill set by posting up for a couple seconds, fadeaway shots, mid-range shots, get closer to the three-point line if you're going to take threes. But his defense is awful. He always looks for a foul down the crowded lane, as I just said, and he takes limitless shots that kill any momentum the Knicks had. I'm sorry, he is not a championship-level center. And it would not surprise me if he got traded after this season, if the Knicks do not accomplish their ultimate goal in making the finals or winning the championship. Giannis will start being discussed ad nauseum if they don't get to their ultimate goal or make the finals, and there will be mock trades all over the web. It'll come from me, it'll come from Dom, it'll come from, Bleacher Report, ESPN, you name it. It's going to come from everywhere. The Knicks will not win a championship with Karl-Anthony Towns. I'm sorry. Now, you want to prove me wrong? I'll happily take the incorrect statement. I'll be accountable. I'll raise my hand up. No problem. But from what everything is about the eye test in sports. What I see with Cat is not championship caliber defense or even frankly offense right now. It's just not there. So that's my take of the day. And right now, it's not going to change until he starts playing better, frankly, or at least starting to prove me wrong. And if the Knicks do not accomplish what they need to do, and if they don't start getting better, really from this point forward, forget about the Hornets game. Starting with the Bucks game, the Cup game Friday night, my take is going to start moving, just like the Sauce Gardner take. It's going to start moving from a hot take to a lukewarm take to a cold take. And that's in the hands of Karl-Anthony Towns for that take to get to that point. His defense Maybe it's all right when Mitch is next to him, but Mitch has to make up for that. Karl-Anthony Towns is not a center. He's more of a power forward. That's what he played in Minnesota when Rudy Gobert was next to him at the center position. Mitch is not going to play a lot, really, this whole season, maybe up until we get maybe a month out from the playoffs, which would be beginning to mid-March. But they want to save Mitch for the playoffs. But they do have to work him up to about 30, 35 minutes. They got to work him up there to at least 30 minutes, but that's not going to be right now. So Cat's going to have to be the center for a hefty portion of each game. And I don't know if he can do that. Yeah, he had his rebounds. He got 12 rebounds last night. He had a double-double. But I need to see good perimeter defense and good, under-the-rim defense. And I don't see that right now from Karl-Anthony Towns. So that's my take for the Knicks. So that's the segment. I'm sure Dom has his take, but he's not here. So there goes that. So now we're going to move to the Take a Seat, Let's Bet segment. So my FanDuel bets for the Thursday night games, which is obviously afternoon, evening, and night because it is Thanksgiving after all this upcoming Thursday. And then, of course, Jets versus Falcons. And I'll even throw in a bet for Giants at Patriots. So first, Packers at Lions. I'm going to do a same-game parlay. Amon-Ra St. Brown anytime touchdown and Romeo Doubs anytime touchdown together. That's plus 416 currently on FanDuel. The red zone defense for the Packers is 23rd in the NFL. Lions are 26th in the NFL. However, both of these teams have very good defenses. Total defense, I believe the Packers are better than the Lions. The Packers are 7th. The Lions are 10th. But they really are neck and neck between each other. And that's what's really going to make this, I believe, a low-scoring game. And I do think that it is going to be a, defensive game and not a ton of offense. But I would still say that St. Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Romeo Doubs do get their respective touchdowns. Yeah, right now, total defense, Lions are 10th, and the Packers are actually 4th in total defense. Passing defense, Packers are 5th. Lions are 15th. Okay. Rushing defense, Packers are 6th. Lions are 11th. So there's that for that game. So I'm going to take that bet. Chiefs at Cowboys. As we know, Cowboys defense is terrible. I'm going to say Rashee Rice 2+ touchdowns at plus 500. And Kareem Hunt gets 40+ rushing yards for plus 132. Cowboys defense is ranked 30th in passing and 24th in rushing. I mean, their total defense is brutal. They're 29th in the league. So there's that. So that's the bet I would put down. Once again, Rashee Rice 2+ touchdowns for plus 500 and Kareem Hunt 40+ rushing yards for plus 132. It is not together. I'm saying separate bets. If you want to put them together, I'm sure you can. I'm not sure what the full bet is for that, for those together as a same game parlay. Then you got Bengals at Ravens, the night game. You got Derrick Henry, 2+ touchdowns, and Mark Andrews anytime touchdown together as a same game parlay, and that's plus 638. Again, the Bengals are horrid on defense. I'm not sure if they know what defense means. So overall, total defense, Bengals are dead last, 32. And of course, you can imagine passing defense dead last. Rushing defense is 31st, with only the Giants behind them at dead last. So again, the bet for the Bengals and Ravens, Derrick Henry 2+ TDs and Mark Andrews anytime TD together as a same game parlay, plus 638. The Black Friday game, which is going to be a doozy. Both teams are 8-3. Bears at Eagles. Both teams are 8-3. A.J. Brown anytime touchdown and Devonta Smith anytime touchdown together as a same game parlay, plus 653. Bears defense is frankly not just not very good. If you look at what their rushing defense is, for the Bears, it's not strong. It's 28th. Passing defense for the Bears is 21st, a little better for passing, but the Eagles' run game did not look good this last game, and it hasn't looked good for a bit. Total defense for the Bears is 27th. So not good total defense for the Bears. So that's Bears and Eagles again, same game parlay. A.J. Brown anytime touchdown and Devonta Smith anytime touchdown, plus 653. And I even have DeAndre Swift anytime touchdown, plus 175 because for rushing defense, the Eagles aren't great either. The Eagles are 18th. They're more towards the lower half of the NFL ranked. So those are the bets there for Black Friday game. Then you have Jets, Falcons. I'm just taking total points, 24.5, right? Plus 750. I just think this is going to be a low scoring game. Falcons defense is great. Jets defense isn't that bad. Jets total defense right now is 14th. Their passing defense is 10th, but their rushing defense isn't great. It's 23rd. And I'm going to give my prediction. As you can tell, total points 24.5. As you can imagine, the prediction's not going to be high. It's going to be a low scoring game, but that's plus 750. That's my bet for Jets versus Falcons. Giants at Patriots. It's very early. The game's not until Monday. I would think this is going to be a medium scoring game, not too high, not too low. But if you want to put a bet down, I would say maybe Jackson Dart runs it in for a touchdown when that bet does become available. Maybe take Jackson Dart anytime touchdown. He runs it in for himself because, frankly, the only serious weapon that he has really is Wan'Dale Robinson. Doesn't have Cam Scatterbo, doesn't have Malik Neighbors. And, hopefully he clears concussion protocol and he'll be back for Monday night. So when those bets become available for the Giants, maybe in a few days here, I would take Jackson Dart anytime touchdown, running it in for himself. Wouldn't be surprised if that type of bet is maybe quite high, maybe between plus 300 plus to plus 550. Who knows? Could be in between there. So that's for the bets. Now take a seat. Let's predict. Giants at Patriots. I kind of gave this one to my brother and see what he would say. And he said Patriots win, and he went with 24-17. So that's very possible. And I think that's a solid bet. Again, I know New England may be cold and windy, but I think Drake May will definitely slice up the Giants' defense because right now, as we see it here on Fox Sports, the Giants' passing defense is 23rd. Rushing defense is dead last, so that's not very good. And their total defense is 30th. So Giants defense isn't great. So again, my brother said Patriots win at New England 24-17. Then Jets versus Falcons. Falcons win 14-10. I just think this is going to be a low scoring game. Falcons are a great defensive team. The Jets can't hit water if they fell out of a boat. And I think it's going to be a low scoring game. If you couldn't tell by my bet, I said total points 24.5 at plus 750. So again, the Falcons win 14-10 over the Jets. And then you have the Knicks. Knicks at Hornets Wednesday night, tomorrow night. Knicks versus Bucks Friday night. Both the Hornets and the Bucks games are cup games. Again, the Hornets are Wednesday night, the Bucks are Friday night. Knicks versus Raptors, that's Sunday night. And then Knicks at Celtics, that's Tuesday night. And I will predict that since it is on Tuesday next week, and that's when we'll be recording again. Hopefully Dom will be joining me next week. So for me, I'm going to say that honestly, this is the thing. The Knicks haven't exactly played well against higher competition. I do see them beating the Hornets tomorrow night, Wednesday night, but I don't know. Bucks, Raptors, Celtics, those are some good teams. I know the Knicks already beat the Celtics the second game of the season, but I'm sorry, I'm going to say the Knicks go 1-3 on the week. They have not showed me anything where they can beat solid to above solid teams this year. And the Raptors are second in the East. I believe they're 13-5. So they're a pretty good team right now. And of course, you have the Bucks, who already beat the Knicks this year. And so if you look at the standings, Pistons 15-2, Raptors 13-5. I know Milwaukee is 8-10, but Milwaukee played well against the Knicks and they beat them. So I'm sorry to say, I don't really see the Knicks beating the Bucks either, along with the Raptors and the Celtics. I say the Knicks go 1-3 on the week. The Knicks have not shown any type of winning prowess since beating the Cavs and Celtics to start the season. Prove me wrong, and I will happily take accountability for my incorrect prediction. That's what I have written down here. So, again, Giants at Patriots. My brother says Patriots win 24-17. Jets versus Falcons. It's a home game here at MetLife. Falcons win 14-10. Knicks at Hornets, Knicks versus Bucks, Knicks versus Raptors, and Knicks at Celtics. The Knicks go 1-3 on the week. So those are the predictions. And frankly, before I wrap up this episode, I'm just going to say once again, I don't see the Knicks winning a championship with Karl-Anthony Towns. The Jets, they're just trying to get through the season. We'll see what they do for the quarterback position next season. I'm sure we'll be continuing to talk about that topic, as the season progresses and as we go along week to week with this podcast. But the Jets are just going to continue to lose. They don't look great, right? They don't have that much talent. And Garrett Wilson's still hurt. Breece Hall is really the only offensive weapon the Jets have. Their defense is much maligned, right? They obviously traded Quinnen Williams and Sauce Gardner a couple of weeks ago. So the Jets will continue to lose. And regarding the Mets, I honestly think the Mets are just they're just going to move forward without Pete Alonso. I think they'll bring back Edwin Diaz. And again, if you want to re-listen to the 5 things that you should look out for with these winter meetings coming up and with the winter offseason continuing and progressing here, re-listen to it. I think those 5 things are definitely all possibilities, and I think they're all fair. And it's very possible that all 5 of those things happen. Maybe 1, at most 2 of them don't, but it is possible that all 5 of them do happen. And Brandon Nimmo was a great Met. Maybe his defense was starting to decline after he got that 8-year contract, but he always played hurt. He had that plantar fasciitis last year. I know Marcus Semien had his foot injury, but so did Brandon Nimmo. And he was always a respected Met, the nicest guy in the world. Everyone liked him, all the reporters, all of his teammates, all of the coaches. And I'm sure he's going to do just fine over in Texas. And he'll be the same productive, good hitter. I don't know if he's a cleanup hitter still. He's not a great defender. He's a below average defender now, but I think he still will be effective, and he'll be a high quality player in Texas for the Rangers. So that's really all I'd have to say. Of course, happy Thanksgiving to everybody. If you did tune in and you listened to the full extent of this episode, I appreciate it. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. You do enjoy Thanksgiving with the folks, and you enjoy your friends and family and relatives. I know I will this upcoming Thursday. So again, happy Thanksgiving. Well, that's going to do it for us today. Thank you to everyone for tuning into today's episode of the FTB podcast on either YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. Be sure to like this episode and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you never miss any of our shows. See you folks on Tuesday. Peace.